we can officially now call the March 11th, 2021 Roberts Field Advisory Committee meeting into order. And on today's agenda, we will start off with any public input from anybody who's joined. I always like to just kind of go through and read through who the members are just to make sure that there's any changes there, which I don't think there are. And then as far as what we're going to go over, it's really just kind of talking about the survey questions, making sure that we agree and vote on those. And I know, Adele, you had some information that we can talk about as well on that with the grants. We also have Ted from the IT team here who's going to help us with running the surveys. So he's going to be able to talk to us a little bit about what that looks like and answer some questions. Then we can review the different pavilion locations that Barry had put together. We have some screenshots to share, or we can jump into the CAD system that he's been using as well to kind of take a look at those and kind of just vote on those locations. And then also the exercise equipment. We talked about those being in different locations. So we just need to decide where those are going to go and just be all in agreement. We did talk with Steve a couple weeks ago, Barry, and he was honestly open to the exercise equipment stations being really anywhere. He wasn't really married to a location, so we just need to agree on a spot and share that with him. And similar to the pavilion, right? He was open to our suggestions and ideas on that. So we'll go over those. I think we need to vote on the meeting minutes, and that should really wrap it up unless there's anything else anybody wanted to go over today.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Good. All right. All right. So if anybody at this time has any public input who's on, I know we have, I think, a resident guest. No? All right. Well, in the future, if anybody does, you can ask questions or make comments at questions@robertsfield.org. Just to review, the board members, myself and Barry are co-chair. I think we need to talk about Justin because he hasn't attended. So Barry, I know you've communicated with him in the past. I can reach out to him as well, but I think we just need to find out if he wants to really participate or not. And if not, then maybe we can reach out and see if we can find someone who would want to take his place. And then Bill, Adele, and Elizabeth, any changes on your end? Are you guys still interested in staying on board?
Staying on board.
I'm here.
Perfect.
All right, awesome. Okie doke. That's quick. All right, so first things first, let's dive right into survey. So I just have a couple, this is what we shared before, right? These are the survey questions that we had outlined. That's 1 and 2. So question 3, question 4. And we can go back and review these, but really, I think for the purposes of today is we want to just make sure we're all in agreement on those, which I'm pretty sure we did last time. So we should probably just vote on it just so we can move forward with it. And then again, I have Ted here who's going to help us with the program. And so Ted, I don't know if, would you mind just kind of walking the committee through what the process is, what we need to do, and what kind of the timeline looks like for us to put them together?
Sure. So I took the questions that you gave me and I used Microsoft Forms, which is a program that comes with Office 365. I've created the survey and I can put in a start date and end date on it. And that's just about it. I can, at the end of the survey, I can send you an Excel spreadsheet with all of the data in it. If you want to get some of the data before it's over, I can certainly do that. It's a basic program. It's a basic setup. You're not really looking for anything that's out of the ordinary. So I think it'll work fine for what you guys are trying to do.
Okay.
Have you looked at it? I sent you a link to it.
Yeah, I can share it on my screen if you guys want to hold on a second. I'll pull up the link. So give me 1 second.
While you're doing that, one of the things that we were doing was questioning the demographic information to meet what the governor had said would be the aims of the 2022 budget and how money was going to be specifically earmarked for certain communities. In that speech, he made it sound as if it was going to be done along a somewhat racial line, as opposed to an income line. However, what I've discovered that when they talk about disadvantaged communities, Massachusetts is definitely going with an income-based, and therefore we can either put income increments up that people can check off, or I think that it would be just as valid to leave it at zip code, because then we can say that within this zip code, X amount of the residents fall below the poverty level. That's something I can get from general demographics. And it lets me play with the verbiage a little bit. Whereas if we had specific numbers, I'd have to be too specific to within my reference to them.
So I think what you're saying is that if because we do ask people to provide their zip code. Can you guys see my screen in the form?
What we had been talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
So if we use the zip code, Adele, is that something that we, I guess, can use to identify that demographic information?
Yes, because the zip codes will allow us to say just how far in miles we're roughly drawing people from, how regional we are. And we would need that information anyway. The question is then whether do we add a question that talks about, does your income fall between these numbers or these numbers or these numbers, etc. And I'm uncomfortable with that. I've always been uncomfortable with filling it out. And as I said, since I'm using the information from this for a grant application and for lobbying with the state, I'd much rather be able to talk generally about, we draw people from this zip code, which represents whose demographic falls
Right, yeah.
30% below the poverty level, etc. So it just makes things easier to phrase.
I think that's probably also, as you said, you're uncomfortable putting that in. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable putting that in. And I think the zip code, if we can do something related, I think that covers several issues.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think having the zip code in there, and then we can just use the basic demographic information that we have on that particular populated area.
And it's published by the state annually. So that stuff is readily available.
Okay. So that's good. So this is it. So this would be the link that the page that they could go in and fill out. So zip code, you just select here, one or the other, right? What types of activities do you participate in at the park? You can select multiples, all of them, right?
Right.
Or add one of your own, which I think is good, right? So if there's something in here we missed, it would be interesting to see what people put in there for other. Which of the planned future park improvements are important to you? Again, people could select, multiples, which is great, or add an other. And then do you have any other thoughts, questions, or concerns about improving Harvard's Field and Friendship Park? So kind of an open-ended question at the end that people could fill in or leave blank and then submit. Once they submit, obviously there's no information here yet, but Ted, this was the link that you shared where we could see the activity. So like number of responses, average time, that sort of thing. Is this also, Ted, where we would get the responses themselves, or is that a separate link or something you would have to send us at the end?
Yeah, I'll have to send that to you at the end, I think.
Okay.
I'll look a little more close. I don't use forms that often. I do know that most likely I'll just have to send you an Excel spreadsheet at the end. Or if you want it like halfway through or weekly, I'll do whatever you need. It doesn't take me much time to get that out. So yeah.
Okay. It might be interesting to see like halfway through what kind of responses that we have. I guess, well, I could just go here to see the responses, right? That's really what's the most important. And then if it's low as a committee, we can decide, hey, do we want to try to do some social media stuff or get the word out on it? more than we already have. So I don't know. I guess I'll throw this to the committee. What do you guys think? Do we want to see what the responses are before it's over, or do you want to wait till the end?
I have a quick question. Is this page, this is the landing page once you submit a survey? That would be the actual landing page for the person that's filling out the survey, the responses? Did I understand that correctly?
I believe so, Ted, right? So this is the landing page that the person would go to fill out the survey?
No, after
Yeah.
they filled out the survey, you click submit, and
Oh.
then and if I understand, that page is going to be a recap of the
No.
open-ended responses?
I just actually filled it out.
Okay.
When you're done, it basically just says, thanks, your
Thanks.
response was submitted.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is something for us so we can track how many responses there are.
If you refresh that page now, though, Marcus, you can see what
Oh, there we
that's
go.
what's gonna show up. So I just filled it out real quick. So
Okay.
this is what you can see right away, and then I can give you an Excel spreadsheet with all of the data in it afterwards.
That's
But
great.
look, that actually does give you a pretty good amount of
Yeah, this
data.
gives great information. Yeah, a lot more than I thought. Okay, I thought it would just give us a number of responses. So this is
Are
great.
the open-ended questions listed in there as well?
It just says how many people selected other. And then this is how many responses, I believe, are part of this open-ended question. It says last responses. I don't know. Does it capture if I were to put in an open-ended question? Is it real time? So if I fill it out too,
Yep.
or
Yeah, you fill it out now and then go back to the other page, refresh it. It'll show you.
let's see. The kids go there about every week.
So my process in terms of trying to figure out what we need and when in terms of the Excel spreadsheet is the fact that I need to use this for the lobbying effort.
I'm sorry,
And
Marcus,
that
do you fill
needs
in
to be
other?
submitted at the end of
Oh yeah.
April.
Yep.
Now I have left the last week of April open so that I can do this. But I'm not sure whether we want the survey to go longer than that. And again, it depends on when we start. But I'm going to need sufficient detail for that last week in April, last full week in April.
Adele,
Yes.
while you're speaking, and I apologize, I'm just going to ask you to repeat something you said because I'm taking some notes here, and I missed it at the very beginning when you started speaking. You talked about it was in relation to the survey and to your lobbying efforts, and I think you said somebody had given a presentation or talk.
Yes, the governor had done a press conference when he had submitted the fiscal year 2022 budget. And at the press conference, he talked about the Commonwealth specifically making an effort to serve underrepresented or underserved communities. And so I had wanted to figure that in to this lobbying for the bond fund money, because, you know, every leg up that we can get is important, especially since this kind of grant could probably cover the entire cost of the dredging. So it becomes really vital for us. And at the last meeting, the day the press conference had occurred, I had interpreted the verbiage to mean that he was going to be looking at racial demographics because he was talking about overly impacted communities. And that's where my mind went. But it seems now that as I go through all the material for the state budget, it talks about underrepresented in terms of financial outlay. and income for the area. So it's a political clout kind of thing as well. And thus, it occurred to me that we could probably get the information we need by just maintaining the zip code question and not adding any other questions to the survey.
So he's trying to help, what'd you say, underrepresented communities or underprivileged
Yes.
communities?
Yes.
Hey Ted, I'm just curious, this where it says last responses here, do you know how many it will show? Is it like 4 or 5 or?
I don't know.
Don't know. Okay, I guess we'll find out. Yeah, it's showing 1 right now and 2 up there, so I'm sure there's a limitation to it. It's not going to show
I'd say probably just a couple, two or three
2 or 3.
would be my
Okay.
guess, and it's probably based on how long the response was. A shorter response, you'd probably get 3. A longer response, 1 or 2.
Okay.
It would be my guess.
Okay. But this is, I mean, this looks great. I mean, I think the data that we'll be able to have in real time is really interesting and exciting. So I don't think, again, I'll just kind of throw this out there to you guys, but I don't think we need the Excel document until the end because we have all this information right here.
Yeah,
I mean, does anybody disagree or?
Not unless Adele needs it to start doing her preparation before the end of April.
I will look at this in more depth. I'm afraid one of the things about this is that I don't process a lot of data at one time well. And I'm wondering whether the Excel spreadsheet would be even more so. But I do need the open response questions, the answers to those.
Mm-hmm. Those would be in the Excel document, I believe, Ted,
You
right?
just let me know what you need whenever you need it. You know, it won't take me long to get whatever you need. So
Oh, fantastic.
just send me
Okay.
an email and I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. I'll send it right back to you. Give me a day and I'll take care of it.
Fantastic. So Marcus, if you could share with me how I access this page,
Yeah, I'll share the link with everybody in the group, in the committee.
then that and the open response is all I'm really going to need.
So Adele, if you need to, feel free to lean on me a little bit. If you need, I don't know what it would be for, but help in going through the data, or, you know, if you just, you know, want somebody to support a little of this to help you.
Yeah, I may have to break it down a little bit at a time or a question at a time. It's just one of those ADD things where I hit my limit at certain numbers of input and then it just kind of short circuits.
Yep,
So
that'll be fine.
From a timing standpoint, you need your information the first day of the last week of April, right?
correct.
So we have 6 weeks. If we launched on the 14th, if we launched on Sunday this week coming up, that would give us 6 full weeks of data collection. If we went through April 24th. So are we good with that? March 14th through April 24th?
Oh, that'd be great. I wasn't thinking 6 weeks, but 6 weeks would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think the more time we can get, the better. So, Ted, do you see? Does that work on your end? Is that okay?
I'm just writing down the dates now. March 14th through what?
April 24th.
So you want me to start it like 5 a.m. March 14th, end it at 5 p.m. April 24th you said?
24th, correct.
That sound good to you? 5 a.m. to 5 p.m.? 5 a.m.
Yeah.
March 14th, 5 p.m. April 24th.
Perfect.
I'd rather go at close at midnight, if that's
fine.
okay.
That's no problem.
Just because I know a lot of night owls like me.
I'd also suggest that we do at least one run through of the responses, because kind of closer to the start of it, just to see, because sometimes that'll identify issues we have with the survey.
Yeah, I guess I would recommend we all take the survey.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then that'd be a pretty decent sample size for you to see if there's any issues. Does that work?
Well,
is that what you were thinking, Bill? Or
well, I was thinking maybe like 2 weeks out, we have access to the responses and kind of be able to go through it to see if there's to make sure that we're collecting the right stuff and asking the right questions, because sometimes people will tell you what you're doing wrong. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see. You're asking about getting the responses in 2 weeks.
Correct.
I gotcha.
So we should just build in a 1 or 2 week check-in.
Okay. Ted, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with whatever you guys
We'll
want to do.
just send you a message and say, hey,
you
can you
let-
send us data?
This doesn't take much of my time. I'm happy to do whatever you want me to do. I'm happy to do.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Ted.
Yes, thank you. We really appreciate it.
So I'm actually, because you guys want to look at this, I'm going to start it. It's actually started now. I'm not going to do a start. I'm going to have it start today.
Okay.
You don't have to let anybody know until Sunday, but that will give you guys the opportunity to play with it. If I start it Sunday, then you're not going to be able to use it until Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to put an end date of April 24th at midnight, and then we can go from there. And we can remove the responses at some point. Remove the responses that take place before March 14th, which would just be us.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds good.
Ted, this may be out of left field, but would it be possible to have a QR code created that people could take a picture of to access this on their phone, so we could have the QR code at the park?
Yep.
Or
Yep.
Okay.
I will send you one.
Okay.
I'll send you one that goes to that form. Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I think that'd be good. Just we could post it up
Yep.
on the bulletin board at the park, and that'd be an easy way for people to access it, right?
Yep.
Right.
Great idea. Hey, a dumb question. What's the mechanics of this coming live? I mean, how does it get to people? How do people know about it?
Well,
Well, you're asking like the committee, Barry?
Well, I'm asking anybody actually that can answer, Ted or anybody. So when this goes on, people have to know that this survey is out there, ready to be taken.
It's based on the advertising, however you guys advertise it, that's how it'll get known. I'm sure that, if we ask Paul, we could probably put it on the town website, saying that there's a survey out there. And any other places that you guys can think of. And I also think the QR code on the bulletin board at the park itself is a good idea.
and also if we can get permission at the coffee shop.
Oh, to put the QR code?
Yeah, the shop.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she'd be okay with it. Yeah.
Are they open again yet?
What was that, Elizabeth?
Do you know if they've opened up again yet?
I don't think they have, but I can always just reach out to her and say, hey, can I put it outside in case people walk up to it? Or
Yeah. No, so I like the QR code on the bulletin board. I assume we can put it on the Friends of Roberts Field page or the Facebook page associated with the group, and the
I'll advertise it at the Chelmsford News Facebook page, and I'll see what other town Facebook pages will let me promote the survey as well.
Yeah, speaking of shops, we could probably put it up at like KJ's or something on the bulletin board there. The KJ's Cafe in the center of town.
Okay. I didn't catch that. If you want to repeat it, I'll take a note on it.
I was just saying we could probably put it up on KJ's or other center of town coffee shop type places that have bulletin boards that have local information on them.
And at the library.
Right.
Getting back, there's 3 websites that come to mind immediately besides our own. This Chelmsford News, this Chelmsford News 2.0, and I believe it's Chelmsford Town Talk, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd recommend we, put a blip out to any of those.
No, it's a good idea. Bill, do you still have access to the Roberts Field website? Are you able to put it there?
Yes.
Okay.
We might want to grab an image from the model to go with that too.
That'd be great.
People respond to pictures, so when we're having our review of the model tonight, let's collectively think about if there's an image that we want to grab off that
Sure.
to do this with.
Do we have an introductory blurb already about what this is or why we're looking for it?
Yes. Oh, oops. Oh, that's the thank you page I got. Okay.
I
So-
just created the QR code. I emailed it to you, Marcus, and I
Okay.
also put the end date in. It's actually the 25th at midnight because you want it to go to you want the whole 24th. So the 25th at midnight is when it closes.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So this is the this is what we have on the survey, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Right there.
So I'm thinking we need to create some posters.
Yes. Yeah, we can do some posters and we can do some Facebook posts and stuff like that. So, yeah, we got some work to do. I guess is everybody in agreement on the questions and the timing of it?
I'm copacetic with that.
I'm good
Yeah.
with that.
Good.
I'm good.
Okay. Bill, this is your expertise. I should feel like I should know this, but I don't. Do we actually have to vote on it or just agree on it?
What votes have we done regarding the survey?
I don't think we've done any.
Then we need to have a vote that yes, we will promulgate this and put this out to the public as a survey.
And that and vote that the survey is acceptable in its current form. That was an approval of the survey. And
So,
vote.
I move that we publish this survey in order to gather information from the general public that uses Roberts Field.
I second
And
that.
that the motion is that the survey is acceptable as it stands.
Yep. Aye.
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 All right, we're good. Excellent. We can move on from there. All right. Do we need anything else from Ted? I hate to keep you any longer than you've been with us, so thank you, Ted. But is there anything else we need from Ted?
I don't.
All right.
Thank you, Ted.
No problem.
Thank
Hey,
you.
you guys
Appreciate
need
it.
anything? You guys need anything? Just let me know. I'm happy to help.
Thank you for all of your willingness to assist us.
No problem. Take it easy, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Take care.
Thank you. So for the rest of us, we need to, I think, talk a little bit about the mechanics of getting a poster put together. Bill, this is your expertise on this stuff. I'm willing to help produce them. We want the QR code on the poster. We probably want an image or two to attract, attention to the poster. And obviously the statement, request, and then just print these out. And I'm willing to help. I don't know who else wants to do this too.
Well, I'd be happy to create text to do the copywriting.
Great.
All right, I will. I can create the design for electronic posting and for a 8.5 by 11 flyer, and I can send that. I guess send that over to Adele for copy, and then I guess whoever else wants to work, print it and distribute it.
Yeah, if you guys
Actually,
want to put it
Bill,
together
can we
and send it to me, I can print it and distribute it. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll each send everything to Marcus because I'm terrible figuring out layout and I always mess it up. So I'd rather just write text and have someone else play with the layout of what margins and whatever it needs to go into the document.
Yeah, I'll do that part. I don't think there's going to be a ton of text, but we can work however.
Okay.
All right, so perfect.
What do we want to put up at the park? Probably 3 or 4 of these. I mean, you're probably going to want to put them up by the outhouses and certainly over by the Friendship Park.
In plastic protector sheets.
I do have. I'm just looking at the time. I do have that real estate flyer box that we could print printed copies in and then put a color copy on the front of, and post that on the bulletin board area at the park.
You mean
Oh, and
something-
rather than a plastic page protector, I just realized I have a laminating machine.
oh, wonderful.
I had forgotten about it,
That'd be
but we
great.
could laminate it.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
So how would I? So if I printed them out, how would I get them to you? To laminate.
Drop them by, put them in my mailbox, or I come pick them up from your mailbox or something like that.
Okay. Whatever I can drop them by and put them in the mailbox. Yeah. Whatever, or put them in a box and leave them somewhere, for you.
Okay,
Whatever you're comfortable with. All right. Perfect.
that works.
I think we got a good plan there.
How many do we think we want to do this? For the lamination,
Probably not.
probably not. I don't know. We want like a half a dozen. I don't know how expensive it is, Adele.
You know what? I bought it, I used it once, and it's been packed up since. So I do not know even how much plastic I have. Let me find that out after
Okay.
the meeting, and I will get back to you on that.
Yeah, even if we could get a handful laminated, I think that would be better than nothing. So
Okay.
yeah, to be good. And then we'll have it on the website. You're gonna make some posts, Adele, for some of the Facebook pages.
Yes.
So if you share those, then we can I can take those and we can just share them across whatever other social networks we have, right? We'll just use the same one.
Okay.
It makes the most sense.
The process generally is that you have to ask the moderator first. You submit the information in a post, asking the moderator if they are willing to publish it, since
Yep.
we're not members of that particular Facebook group or whatever. And then it becomes up to them.
I
Okay.
think I'm a member of all three.
Well, I'm talking about ones from out of town,
Oh, okay.
because we
Mark.
really want to find out just how regional we are. And the more regional we are, the better it works for us. So I need to find out the Facebook groups in, all the surrounding towns from, all the way up Route 3 from Burlington on up.
I should be able to find out some information for Billerica. I know some moms there.
Excellent.
Marcus, is there any issues, or do you have any limitations on the color use on the flyer? Like, if it's like a full color photograph, that's okay, or do you just want limited? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Are you printing it at work or home?
No, well, so I have a printer at home. That's a work printer, and they supply me with the ink, so it's not really that big of a deal.
Is it a color laser printer, or
It is, yeah, color laser
Okay.
printer. So I mean, as long as I would say as long as it's not a huge image, it'd be fine. But
okay?
yeah,
And 8.5 by 11,
yeah, that
or
works.
larger tabloid size. You're limited to 8.5 by 11 probably.
I'm limited by the
I don't
sheet
think I
size.
can
think
laminate anything larger than 8.5 by 11.
Yeah, I would say my sheet size is 8 by 8, not 8 by 11. I think.
Okay.
The paper I have, it's just regular letter size paper.
Okay.
So that'll be good. All right, perfect. So I think we got a good plan on the survey, and it's exciting. We're gonna get this thing out, so that's great. Anything else anybody can think about with the survey before we move on, or I think we're good.
Nothing.
All right, on to the next one. All right, so like I said before, Barry and I met with the Steves.
The grant? Do you want to
what's
do
that?
the grant stuff real quick?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Del. Yes, go for it. Yes, you talked a little bit about it, so I totally forgot.
Well, no, this is a separate shade grant, whose deadline is December 1st, as I recall,
Mhm.
or November 30th, somewhere in there. It has a stipulation that we need to document a 1-year effort of sun safety programming, or some sort of sun safety awareness at the park.
There's
Which-
that sunscreen.
Same thing.
Well, they talk about having things like signs about sun safety and things like that. My thought is we could actually take advantage of the COVID closure to say we were unable to do a full program this year. We did in fact erect, one shade structure, but we were not able to implement any specific other shade program
We
because of
saved,
closer to the park.
we
Wasn't
saved
there?
a tree.
I'm sorry?
We saved a tree.
Well, unfortunately, shade trees are not included in the grant.
What wasn't there a sunscreen thing when the sunscreen things had signs on them about sun protection?
I thought they did too, right? Over by where you could get the free sunscreen. It
Yeah.
actually talked about the benefits of sunscreen and the damage that the sun can do.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it may be a stretch, but I mean, it'd be worth possibly putting that in there because it
We
is something.
can, and we can also post that we have X amount of sunscreen dispensers on order, or boxes where packets of sunscreen can be placed or something like that.
Who ran the sunscreen effort? Does anyone know? Was that Board of Health stuff or?
I thought that was one of the people on the Roberts Field committee.
No, it was the Board of Health.
It was the Board of Health.
Yeah, I had some sense it was the nurse Susan Rosa or something. I might be making that up. So, yeah, I would say that we may already legitimately be.
When did that
within
start?
that 1 year.
Yeah, it's over a year ago. They did it at the other playground too. Sue Rosa would be a great resource for that information.
That's
Excellent.
great.
And as a side thing, I do have a question for the committee about where the playground, an option for the playground to be listed someplace. So if you could add that to the agenda, please.
Can you repeat that? I just didn't comprehend what you said.
There are ways of having the existence of our playground made available in lists for things like handicapped accessible playgrounds. And so I wanted to discuss that.
So option for the playground to be listed. Okay, so this is a subject that you want to discuss at a future meeting.
Or at the end of the meeting if we have time.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure we'll have time. Okay, so this part I think should probably go pretty quick, actually. So just to kind of recap, Barry and I met with the Steves over at the DPW. Walked them through Barry's program. Talked about the ideas that we had around the shade structure and where locations, also the exercise equipment locations. And Barry, keep me honest here, but I think as far as I'm aware, they were not concerned really overall as to the locations of the equipment. We had expressed that we wanted to say, I think Station 4 to be over here, right? So that's the bigger station.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like he may have already made that adjustment because this looks like the bigger one, and it used to be over here, right?
Correct.
So I think he's already made that adjustment on this this page. So this is the most recent drawing of the site, basically site plan from the DPW that Steve sent over to Barry.
Did we know cutting back the wood, the tree line as much as?
Yeah, that's what this is right here.
Yeah, I guess prior to seeing that the other day, I was maybe I just didn't remember. I didn't realize they were cutting it back quite so far, say down in the bottom corner.
Oh yeah, down here. Yeah, it's all marked off too. I was down there. Remember, Bill? We were down there. I got last summer, I think, or maybe before that, when marking trees, and I was surprised to see how far back it went. But yeah.
Because that's a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, in fact,
it is.
The interesting point, because that goes to the right there. Hold your cursor right where it is. It's going to the other side. In other words, to the neighborhood side of our little walking trail. So that is a little surprising. Might be interesting to take a walk back over there and just see how that compares.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what about are the protected trees, those little circles down at the bottom? Are there
Yeah, I think these are the tree markings right here, I believe.
I have not had a chance to really study this and raise these kinds of questions, but it's good that we probably.
And I know you had mentioned, Barry, you were going to look at this and try to adjust anything with yours to
Well,
align with this.
what I will do with this, if you remember, I'll show you when we go into the model. The first page that I show on the model is the actual plan that was done by the DPW and Howard Stern Hudson. And that is, I actually scale that to the model. So in other words, you can take measurements off the plan, and I'll do that with this. I'll put it in, and then that way we can actually compare actual locations and distances and things like that.
That'd be really great. Yeah, I guess I was just really shocked when I saw this, and I didn't know whether other people were, but I didn't realize we're putting out so much of the trails back there.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what,
so we're not really,
we were
this is the
expecting.
hook right here. Like, so if you walk down this trail here, like it hooks to the right. So the tree line will still be there.
It's a big overgrown area that they're taking. So they're taking a couple of the smaller oaks, but those really weren't on Jim's plan. I think I don't want to speak for Jim, but I think that's pretty much what we were expecting to see. The other thing, my only comment was that where they've located I guess it's the longer one behind the playground. There's protected trees along that fence line to the left of where your cursor is now. Yeah. No, to the left of the exercise. Over there.
Yeah.
So just generally, though, it would be helpful if, and I know Jim had asked this last time, if Steve would add the protected tree list, the protected trees from our list to this survey, because they're missing from all that left-hand side into the playground, and then also there's missing a few on the pond side shore as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has anyone talked to Jim recently? Because he wasn't at the last meeting either, which is.
I haven't spoken with him now.
Unlike him.
And I actually would like to walk this and see it at some point when we won't be sinking up to our ankles in mud. Just more for the to walk out the distance to the abutters land.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at how close that got to the tree line to the
property lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, we keep in mind though too. So like all along here is trees and woods. So even though the property line is here, there's still a pretty good buffer of.
Right, but that's what I want to see, to make sure that between what will be left on our side and what the families have on their side, that it's an appropriate sound screen or sufficient sound.
It's not going to be a sound screen, that's for sure. It may be visual, like in the summer when all the leaves are out and all that stuff. But I mean, in the wintertime, you can see right through it. Now I walk down my street and I can see right through to the park from my street.
Yeah.
Because my street's right over here. I'm on Thomas, so I walk right through here. Yeah, I walk down here and I can see right through.
I have friends who are abutters on Jonathan.
Oh, okay.
And they have been extremely gracious, saying they've stopped coming to our meetings here for the park because they felt that my presence meant that, knowing how I've been on other committees, that I will be doing my diligence for the abutters as well as for the property.
Yeah.
And so I feel the need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say from a sound perspective, I can hear the park from my house.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, on occasion, right? Like if the wind's going in the right direction and it's wintertime, and like I've definitely heard kids playing at the park from my house, and I live a good distance away.
Okay.
But
I think it's going to be when they have an actual. I'm totally blanking on baseball terms. Where all the people gather at the back part of the baseball area, that's going to be pretty loud. right by their
Yeah.
property.
Could be.
Yeah,
I don't
but
think it'd be any
that's,
worse than it was when the baseball diamonds were there before, though. So
Though they weren't anywhere near that far back at all.
yeah, I get it, but it was an open field. I don't know. I mean, even again, when the baseball diamonds were in the place they were before, I could still hear them from my house, right? That's far away.
Okay.
So
I just want to make sure we're not leaving specific gaps or anything.
yep. And here's what I'll say, I guess, is if any of the abutters have any concerns about that, they should come to the meeting and bring it up, or share their concerns, through the was it Friends of Robertsfield website, and we can bring it up to DPW.
Then I think it would behoove us to send a note to those specific abutters and let them know that this will be discussed at our next meeting if they wish to attend,
I think
because
that,
otherwise they won't know.
I think
Well, I
that's,
think so. Barry, we can ask Steve. I got to think that because I know that the DPW has been in contact with the abutters about a lot of things. So I don't know if any communication has gone out to them from the DPW about stuff that they're doing or work they're doing. We can sure find out. But I guess what I'm trying to get at, Adele, is so what do you want to discuss at the next meeting? So if nobody shows up, what are we going to discuss?
Nothing. Should they wish to have an information session, that we would be open to having it at our next meeting, where we can let them know what's going on in this corner of the park.
I think a plan review isn't a bad idea. I think it's what you're suggesting, right? A plan review, Adele?
Okay.
Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm not sure of the correct term of art. I will trust you.
I don't think the plan's there yet for Steve. I don't think it's yet finalized. I think if he, there's some stuff that we might want to add to it, and then once he's set, we could, before he goes to the Conservation Commission, you could probably do something like that. And the town could do some kind of an abutter mailing if you wanted to take it to that level.
heck, we could just walk down Thomas Drive and Jonathan and drop something in the new mailboxes. It's
Right, yeah.
not, I mean,
It's true.
Hey, if the
Yeah.
town is willing to do the abutter mailing, I think it would behoove us to do that. I think we've always had a good relationship with the neighbors and been very open, and therefore continuing that activity would be appropriate and in keeping with our philosophy, the committee's general philosophy.
So do you want to try to plan for like a site walk kind of a thing, Adele?
That would be great.
So I would guess you'd want to find out when Steve's Conservation Commission deadline is, and then once he has his plan finalized, then we, could arrange to have a on-site walk meeting.
That would be excellent.
And we could invite the abutters to that.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so I guess in the purposes of what we're trying to accomplish right now, I think we were all in agreement on the locations for the exercise equipment. Is there anybody want to make any change or requests or anything like that? I mean, I think this is the layout that we had discussed with this. Again, this one was over here. This one's now over here. That's really the only change. Steve seemed to be okay with it. So again, I throw it out there. Is this something we got to vote on, or? I don't think
that we approve the layout as is. Yes.
I can't see the numbers on that from my screen. So this is 4 down in the lower left. You come in up by the entrance, and that's 1. And then that one where your cursor is that must be 3, right?
I think so. And that's 2. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, sorry, I know this is going backwards, but I just had a thought. I don't know if you already mentioned this at all, but the in terms of posting for the survey, the Chelmsford Mothers Club probably gets people from more than just Chelmsford in it, maybe, or would give an indication of, you know, how we could reach other mothers in the area or other mothers clubs. There might be some communication. So if we could post something to that about the survey, that might be a good.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else on this? So we just make a motion to present this to, you know, basically approve the exercise layout and the locations of this plan drawing to Steve, and, you know, let them move forward with the construction of the exercise equipment in these locations.
Correct. So moved.
Anybody want a second?
Sure, I'll second it. My first second.
Okay.
All right, we're good.
Call all in favor?
Aye.
No, you're supposed to say all in favor.
All in
I'm not
favor.
Chair.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Okay. There we go.
So
I would ask that we try to get the trees, the inventory trees, added onto Steve's map
Yes.
as soon as we can.
Well, do you want to make a friendly amendment that we accept the layout except for the tree line?
No,
Well, he's
Okay.
I think all we just agreed to was just that we liked where the exercise equipment is
Right.
and the
Okay.
layout of the tracks and stuff.
Exactly.
yeah. Let's start if we because we haven't reviewed the whole thing. We're gonna
Yeah,
find
no,
out.
this is simply just the layout of the exercise equipment.
And I don't know about the rest of you. I cannot read the type here on the screen.
Yeah,
It's
it's very
just
small.
too small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say it would be awesome to get it more.
So this was the old layout, and then
2 and 4 were swapped. Yep.
correct. Yep. That's just the layout. Okay, so we got that done. All right, so on to the pondside pavilions. Okay, so these are some images that Barry had shared around possible locations for the pavilion. So I'm going to kind of go through these, and then Barry, if you want to jump in your tool, you can. But we can just decide if this will be enough. So
Sure.
Here's kind of another overhead view of those. This is actually, I think, a really good shot of where they could possibly be. And then, but I think the one thing we need to address is, Barry, you had mentioned that or I think, Billy, you came up with this, that there may be an issue with being too close to the pond, like within 50 feet. Is that correct?
That's actually correct. Steve came back to me when I sent him some information, and basically we've ruled out Pavilion 3, and you can see on his diagram, although I don't know how to interpret it, but he has wetland lines like 50 foot, 100 foot, things like that. But the bottom line is what Steve told me is Pavilion 2 is fine. I mean, we could decide whether we want to turn it or keep it the way it is. That's more than the 50 feet. That's why you see all these dimensions that are in the 50-foot area, and it just shows that Pavilion 3 comes down. I can barely read it on the screen here. I think that's saying 33 feet. And then I showed a line up a little bit to the right of that shows 50 feet, takes you pretty down close to the pathway from the pond. And so in this section down here to our lower left, you don't have too much option to put any structure. Originally, Pavilion 1 was the location, but even then, if you see, I believe it's 38 feet to showing to where it stick in. So that would, if we were going to go in that location, it looks like we would have to turn it sideways and push it right up next to the path. So I know Bill had come up with the Pavilion 2 location earlier on, and it tends to look fairly good from a you know, from a views from the road so that the police can see it, and from the playground. It seems to meet all the criteria that we need it to.
I have to
I mean,
say,
the only thing I think about too with Pavilion with location 2 is, I mean, I know it's supposed to be the pond side pavilion, but I mean, people could use it to watch the lacrosse games. I mean,
And baseball.
Yeah, or baseball. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess was definitely picturing more the Pavilion 1 location oriented 90 degrees from how it is personally.
Mhm.
I
Pavilion 2?
like that. I thought the part of it was the whole skating pond thing. But you know, I guess I worry about the balls. At least it's protected from the balls over there, right? I don't know. My druthers would be a 90-degree rotation
So turn this
of the
one to be this way.
of the Pavilion 1.
Oh, this one. Oh, so
Yeah.
so turn this. Okay, so
then it would be, you know, a smaller version of the shape of the garage, sort of, and it would also be behind the protective fencing, whatever you call that, behind the goal.
Which would be your view 365 days out of the year. You'd be staring at the back of a 10-foot lacrosse fence.
I thought the intent was to be staring at the pond side. I thought it was supposed to be for the pond.
I think it's both, and I think there's benefit to being able to see the pavilion from the playground, which I don't think you'd be able to visually see it. Plus, I think you're crowding a lot of features into a small area. You have the garage, you'd have that, and then you'd have the skate shack and skate shack garden, and then the tree. So it's kind of loading up that one spot. It also wouldn't be very visible as the police were driving around and through the parking lot. You really couldn't see it.
Pavilion, I mean, that's security is a big concern we have to keep our eye on. And Pavilion 2 is the best of the three of them from a police security and from a seeing what's going on over there from the playground and vice versa.
Yeah, but if you move the Pavilion 1 up a little bit and rotated it 90 degrees, you'd have just as clear a shot from the parking lot to see it.
Not with the fence.
I don't. So Barry, I don't know. I mean, how hard would it be? I mean, I don't know. Could you jump in the tool and then turn this around and then get a kind of bird's eye view from the street and see how it looks, or no?
Sure.
I mean, it may be helpful for us to get that kind of.
No one's seeing either pavilion from the street. They're too far back. You'd have to be up in the parking lot.
I think, but I guess I do see what you're saying, Bill, where if this one here, if we turned it and put it, like, let's say it was like right here, right? That's where it's going to have to be, right? It's
no,
like
I think
right up along here and like right here, right? So it would be right up along the path and it'd be behind this. So, I mean, not to say kids can't hide behind the shed anyway, they could, but I don't know. It's one of those, I see your point where it's like kind of tucked in and it's in between these two things. It might be a little crowded. I was a original mindset that I thought it would be, again, pond side. My favorite location is this one here, but we can't do that, right? So then my next favorite location for me personally would be just to pull it back a little bit and take this one and just turn it so that it was, you know, like lengthwise this way.
And from a usability standpoint, from a park user, I mean, if you put it where Pavilion 3 is, you make it an option for someone watching the lacrosse field or watching the baseball field or sitting pondside. I mean, it still is pondside. It's just a granite crusher fine path in between you and the path and that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of.
I don't think it's going to feel as pondside, frankly, but.
I mean, I don't know. There's not a lot of space here. There really isn't. Like.
Well,
it is what it is. I mean, we can't.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, so if it was here, you're still pretty close. I mean, you're within 50 feet. I mean, I think just beyond 50 feet is basically what I'm saying, right?
I thought that was substantially more than 50 feet.
It has to be, yeah. So saying it would be just beyond 50 feet.
Hey, Marcus, you want to give me control,
Yeah,
and
because then you can
I'll,
show
I'll
us.
show everybody a little bit about what's going to happen here. Tell me when you can see the model.
Not yet.
Actually, I don't know if I have requested it correct. Let me see if I have. Where is it?
Should be the white box with the arrow. Or I think it's Control Shift E.
You guys seeing it now?
There we go. Yep. Now we got it.
Excuse me. So I just rotated our first guy, and we're looking at a decent distance there. If we wanted to do that, and you get the protection, we're missing an obvious opportunity here too. We're assuming that the path is fixed. I'm going to take this guy. Let me just get him out of the way for a second. Come on. Now, this guy, we could do, supposing we did something like this. So now we've got the distance. I'm just going to kill him for a second. Now we've got the distance. And again, we could change the routing of the pathway too. In other words, it's not like, we're describing this as if we're, stuck one side of the path or the other. So I'd say let's put this where we want it.
Can you zoom out a little bit, Barry? Yeah, I mean, I guess instead of having the path bend in, although is there an issue with the path being within 50 feet of the water?
Probably. And we're going to have to see if I can get this guy to come up out of the ground. It tends to things sink into the ground here pretty easily. Yeah, in other words, what we could do is bring the path over a little bit to the right,
Mm-hmm.
and then put this to the left or vice versa. We could keep this about where it is and just run the path around it.
Well, the path would give it accessibility that it doesn't have if we put it right beside the path. In terms of,
Yeah, we don't want the building right beside the path, because natural use of the people at the picnic tables is they're going to have wagons or strollers or whatever that are not necessarily going to fit between the picnic tables. And they're going to go just outside the area, but within arm's reach. And so we would wind up with obstacles on the walking trail.
So that kind of puts a wrinkle into spot 3 then behind the barn. Right, because is that when it would have to be, it has to be pretty close up to the path, right?
Talking about Pavilion 1?
Yeah, that one, yeah.
didn't we want to have an accessible path to it anyway? I guess I just don't.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that too.
I'm not understanding why people wouldn't know not to block the path.
So
We could add signage if needed saying, please don't block the path. I think most people would pull their strollers and whatnot off onto the grass.
I'll bring this guy back to where if we have him
You can't pull that path down, can you, Barry? Is that a big deal or no?
What would you like to do with the path?
Pull the path closer to the pond, like you were saying.
We can do that. The path tends to be a pain to work with, and I don't want to get myself into a tangle here where you guys are watching me struggle for 20 minutes.
And the other thing is we do need to ascertain whether the path is sufficiently permeable that it can be constructed within the 50 feet buffer zone, or whether it is considered non-permeable, in which case it can't go within the 50 feet buffer zone.
How wide is the path again?
I
4
believe
feet,
it's
6 feet?
6 feet.
It's 6 feet. Okay.
Hey, Barry, would you mind rotating the view so that the point of view is from the parking lot?
You want to look at it from the parking lot?
Yeah, I want to see the accessibility because I honestly don't see why you wouldn't be able to see the Pavilion 1 at all. The Pavilion 1, it's not like the fence is going to be a barrier to see through. Never mind that that corner is, the angle is such that you can see entirely into it.
Yeah, I mean, don't take the model too literally as a, as an image, because this may not be, the barn may not be modeled quite correctly and other things like that. I think it's pretty close.
I'm just saying I have a pretty good visual in my head of that area, and I because of the angle of the parking lot, I don't see that you would not be able to see that from the parking lot. That doesn't seem like I don't see that as a valid concern that the police would not be able to see it when they're driving through the parking lot at all. It would be closer than Pavilion.
They would be able to see it, but when you look at a chain link fence like this one, you're gonna get.
It's obscured. You can see from their thing.
Yeah, you're gonna make it. Go ahead.
I mean, you'll be able to read. You'll be able to look around the back of it, but it's obviously not as visible as the other two, specifically the one that's in the middle there.
Okay, but I don't think it's so not visible enough that it's a security risk.
Yeah.
It's a chain link fence.
I mean, how much of a security risk were the backstops? Because it's the same visual.
No, it's not. I think you need to look at the fencing, the safety fencing they have at McCarthy. It's a different thing.
Okay.
All right, but you can still see between the safety fencing and the barn from the. I don't. Have the police themselves said that they can't see through this safety fencing? I mean,
it's less visible. There's a different distinction.
Yes.
Keep in mind that
would be definitely but that's not the same thing as it being an actual security concern.
Just
visibility is a security concern.
With the Pavilion, you're going to have you're going to have tables and seats and so forth, and you're going to have more stuff in there, and so the potential. It's going to be an attractive place for the kids to come and do drugs or other kinds of things. It's going to be
playground is equally. I said the entire
not only that
gives you a far more challenging location to see in from the parking lot. I think if kids wanted to hide, they'd be over in the alcoves of the playground. I mean.
I
think visibility is definitely an issue, and I think that even for a parent using one of the pavilions and wanting to run back to the car to pick up something, I think visibility is going to be an issue. And I think having a parent maybe at the playground and having somebody else that is over at another pavilion that they want to kind of keep an eye on, I think visibility is going to be an issue. So of these three models, the one that I see that has the best visibility from any place on the drawing is the one in the middle, too, I guess.
Okay, but I'd also suggest that for the security risk that you're presenting it as, I don't think it's enough of a security risk as comparison to how people might want to actually enjoy the space and not be out in the middle between two games. Maybe someone might want to go and eat by the pond and not be in the middle of the field.
So, hey, Barry, can you go back and do the overhead view on, yeah, there we go. So I'm still trying to think of this in a way that almost like have the best of both worlds. I actually liked your idea, Barry, of moving the path to make it work in that spot. So, but the only thing I struggle with is having the path on the pond side. I don't know why, for some reason, like, you know what I mean?
So
Because if people want to sit and kind of look at the pond, and then people are just gonna be keep walking by them. I don't know. So I'd rather the path be on the side of the fields. Is there?
So basically what we do is we swing the path a little bit this way more,
Yeah.
and then put this on the pond side of the path. Is what I'm hearing you say.
That's what yeah. And that kind of does both, right? It still have the visibility. You know, people could be on one side of it looking at it, watching the game. Somebody could be on the other side checking out the pond. And it wouldn't be so far in the middle, you know?
Now the dark green figure 8 area, those are the trees.
I believe so, yes.
So
That's
what
an
if
elm
we
tree.
moved Pavilion 1 down, so, closer to us, so that it was no longer behind the fencing?
It would, but then it would be behind the, what is it, the hockey thing?
It would also be, it would block the
Skate shack.
garden and the skate shack, yeah.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we just moved it over the equivalent width of the pavilion?
I think so, yeah. I mean, you could bury it up to play with it.
Why don't you ask, I mean, are you open to asking Steve if he can adjust the path to accommodate the pavilion closer to down? You know what I'm saying?
His original path curved in more than mine anyway.
Yeah, it did. That's what I'm trying to think of. Like his path actually curved in to a point where we could probably actually put the pavilion where we wanted it.
We also had another path going down to the butterfly garden trail, not butterfly garden, whatever the nature thing is, right? The fork down to the walking nature path.
It's too close to the tree, Barry. Sorry.
I don't think three-dimensionally he is. I think he's just this side of it.
So what I'm hearing is, I think that's about the right location relative to the tree.
I would
As long
actually
as
say
it
it needs
winds
to go
up,
further down
It needs to
towards
be
the wood.
probably be way more left. 50.
Yeah, a little more left. Yeah, a little more into towards the field, Barry. Yeah, like that. Yeah. I don't know if that might be enough.
Can you even see the pond, or are the trees now?
Let's see what
There's
we
no
got.
real trees right there in front of it. That's just kind of like bushes.
Now let me just draw a little line here that just gives us something to reference and see what this will do for us. Let's go find that. Come on, where'd you go? There we go.
Yeah, it's not enough. Was it 42 feet?
yeah.
So you got to go in keep going in a little more.
Boy, wouldn't have thought it would be that close.
Yeah, that's it right there.
So now the question you guys raised is, we bring the path down here. Do we really want the path? I mean, it'd be nice to have the path come around, come down like this and come down like so.
I think so.
Yeah, Yeah, I think it'd be weird to put it around the other way. It'd be almost too unnatural.
Let me see what I can figure out. Yeah, let me see.
Oh, but Barry, remember, if you put the path on the pond side, that
Will
means you have to move the pavilion out even more to accommodate for the 6-foot wide path.
well, the path would have to come.
Right, but the path can't be within 50 feet of the pond too, probably.
Well, that's what we need to find out.
That's the question. So let me make a note on this
Yeah,
one.
I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves maybe on that. So, A, can we move the path? B, does it have to be within, outside of 50 feet?
If it's crushed stone, I believe that's water permeable and acceptable. If there's anything synthetic mixed in, or depending on what the underlayment to it is, it may not be acceptable within the 50 feet. And that's something we'd have to ask Steve.
Right.
So the question then is, can they make this portion of the path, as you said, Adele, a crushed stone, and yet not have it no longer ADA compliant or whatever?
I think all the paths are crushed stone.
The crushed stone is ADA compliant because the walking path is ADA compliant. Someone can push someone in a wheelchair on it.
Right.
So you think, so we need to find out, excuse me, what the material is for the path all the way around anyway.
I believe it's crusher fines, right? All the way around.
Yes.
Yeah.
The issue is its permeability and whether it's permissible within the 50 feet buffer.
Honestly, I think the question might be just to Steve, can you adjust the path closer to the pond so that we can get a shade shelter as close to the pond as possible, roughly in that area that it's in right now?
Right. I guess if we can do that, is everybody in agreement that that's the best place for the shade structure?
I think so.
I think so.
I mean, I do too. I mean, so I guess, do we want to?
Do you want this a little bit further up?
I do.
So do I. Anybody else have a problem with that? I just want to move this forward.
I would want to look at the view from the playground side, because I think you have, obviously you'll have some big visuals there that you're trying to balance. The tree being one, the skate shack, and then the garage and net and stuff.
Well, I would imagine it's better where it is now than it was where you had recommended between the fields in terms of.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that we look at it and kind of balance it out, all the elements from this view.
I think that's a nice view.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good. It's not too in the field. It's not too, you know what I mean? It's not hidden, that's for sure. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Barry, would you mind removing the pavilion one so it's not in the visual assessment where? Thanks.
What I like most is it takes the pavilion out of the busy area of the fire station and the DPW's shed.
Yeah.
And places it firmly within the park.
Yeah, I agree. I like that a lot. I think that looks good.
The worst comes to worse. If you're probably going to have I'm guessing you'd have more of a problem from this baseball field than from the lacrosse. I don't know my sports that well.
I mean, it's little league fields. I don't think they're hitting the balls out.
Not with the kids that are using it. And the other thing to keep in mind too is that these fields aren't going to be lined, so it's basically going to look like an open field.
Right.
They're not going to be lined, meaning
the lines will not be painted.
You're not going to see an outfield for the baseball field. You're going to see the infield, but you won't see the outfield.
So you'll
It'll
see
all
Yeah,
look the
big
same.
three
Yeah.
There's not going to be a different color grass or anything.
You'll
Like you have the
see,
different color grass on here. You're not going to see that.
got it.
If there's an issue with people getting hurt from ball play, I really think that the lacrosse field is the biggest threat.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my only. I personally like where it's positioned now, but if you wanted to cheat it closer to the woods, further away from the lacrosse field, that might make sense from a safety standpoint.
I think you're gonna run into less of a view as you are in line with more foliage, right? I'm already not 100% clear on how high that foliage is on that side of the pond.
Yeah, I need to get over and take some pictures and then do a little bit of modeling of these things too.
But from a safety standpoint, that would be my comment. You probably want to be further away from as far away from the lacrosse field as you could, just to avoid balls.
All right, so I think a good next step here would be for us to kind of share this idea with Steve and see what he says.
What I'll do is I'll do a model. I'll just update the model, run the path around.
Yeah.
So this path now. Well, wait a minute.
But we need to ask Steve, like, hey, can we have the path within 50 feet of the pond and all that? So that there's still some things we need to understand before we can even move it. And then we should, at the next meeting, we can come back and decide, hey, this is where we want it to be based on what Steve says. I mean, it's not being built tomorrow, so I think we're okay to table this for the next meeting based on what comes back from Steve.
I have no problem with the path running right by. I think having the path run right by gives it the best accessibility to strollers and wagons and people in wheelchairs and any other issue.
Yeah.
Are we still putting a path from the main path down towards the nature walk?
Glad you raised that up because I don't know what Steve's showing right now, but I know originally one of the things I got showed a path coming down like so.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. And we had talked about putting the pavilion at the fork of that, but I see why people want it further down. I still think there's a benefit to having the path.
Okay, so if you guys are good with it, I'll model a path that comes in about here, comes between the two, and comes down to the woods. Does that work for you all?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the path.
You're not?
No, I think we have too much going on here already.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion.
How do other people feel?
Or what are you saying? Have a path go around the barn and over to where the other path meets?
Yeah, I think the conversation was
Can you
making.
see my cursor where I'm running my cursor?
Yeah. I thought the agreement had been that we were going to put a smaller path. I thought, Bill, that you and I had both thought this was a good idea at the time, that we were going to put a narrower path from the main path so that we could connect the nature area and make the nature area more unified as part of the whole.
The only thing about that is like a lot of people like sit over there, like where the grass is and stuff like that along the pond. If you put a path there, it just takes away that whole area.
So it's in the master plan that was presented. It's not on Steve's plan. I don't think anybody's.
I'm looking at it right now.
I don't think anyone's ever come back and circled back and said why, but I think it's because I don't know. I never brought it up because I personally didn't like it. I think it kind of takes away from it with just adding more stuff to it, and you really can't give accessibility to the trail around the back of the pond. That's just not doable anyway.
Right.
Yeah, but you can give accessibility to that garden area.
I don't think so. Were you talking about like Pollinator Park?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
I don't
know.
think so.
It's way too wet in there.
Yeah. But
I
I
mean,
don't know
maybe
how
you could have
do that.
accessibility to the skate shack and that little garden, but I mean, at what cost? Really, it's adding more to that area and taking away green space.
Yeah.
This is
That's what, oh
the
yeah, I see what you're looking at. Yeah.
So basically, I mean, the pavilion is exactly in that drawing where I had been talking about it and where it had been agreed during the plan. And I guess I'm baffled as to how this is all being changed now, but you know.
Well, what, I mean, there's some things you're not seeing here directly. It's not as obvious, you've got that's pretty close to the field. And this path, by the way, is swinging in like this, and what we really want to do is bring that down and swing it out. But you're going to have a problem from a visibility standpoint, even more so in this picture because of where that's located compared to the equipment building and the fence. It's not obvious looking at this picture that you get that from the model, but the security is a pretty important element here. Plus visibility from the playground, and even so, here you've got the separation between the building and the skate, and this comes directly behind the skate shack, so you're not going to have a view of the pond.
Well,
I mean, the other thing I
that's
keep thinking
where.
about too is like you're right behind where the goal is going to be for lacrosse. Like
Yep.
that's, I don't know, it just seems sketchy. Even though you get the fence there, I don't know.
I
Who wants to be
agree.
hanging out there and then all of a sudden you hear the lacrosse ball smash against the fence?
Yeah. Or smashing onto your table and into your lunch.
Yeah.
So we're talking. I don't know what this is here. Probably
Probably trees.
Trees
Yeah.
or yeah.
I'll have to do some more modeling here.
Those are inventory trees.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. They had originally the Maltese Pavilion right behind the skate shack. I don't know.
Yeah, and we discussed it a lot. I mean, this was not, the placement there was also discussed a lot, as was that path at the time. So I guess this is where I stopped talking, but this was already, we spent hours of our lives discussing it then, and we can just, yeah, everyone has different opinions now, except for me. So I guess we'll just change it.
Well, I think the model is helping us visualize things that we couldn't see as easily before. That's the trouble,
I guess I have no problem visualizing it either way. So the way I saw it then, I had strong opinions about it, and we discussed it. I guess I just need to let it go.
Well, you know what? We're going to be doing a walk of the park anyway coming up. Maybe it'd be a good idea for us to come over in this area and just take a walk along.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing too is we just got to talk to Steve and find out what's doable. I mean, it may be a moot point. Nothing can be changed with the path and all that stuff. So.
Also, to be clear, the path
we
was
need
supposed to be a smaller, as it says, permeable. I don't know. It was supposed to be a path light it was never going to be really ADA compliant. It was supposed to be for like strollers or, it was not supposed to be a big walking path. It was supposed to be
It's supposed to be like the one in the backwoods as well, but that one got scrapped too. And I think it's important to point out that this plan is pretty dynamic. I mean, just looking at this, you can see that there's the basketball court, and the paths are all different in front of the playground now. I mean, it's a dynamic plan.
Right. Yeah, we had to make some modifications over where, like you said, where the playground is in the past and with the covered bridge and things like that. So, and the kind of the whole network of paths over by where the the parking lot is. I don't think that's not on Steve's plan.
Yeah,
Steve's plan is kind of a simplified version, I would say.
Look at Steve's plan. Come on. On computer. Yeah, his pathing is quite a bit different. And that's something we may want to, I don't know if I have his PowerPoint up here or not. I do. Let me see if I can switch this over. You guys can't see me flipping through this, can you?
No.
Well, actually, I don't even have the document. It was not part of the agenda. So, Marcus, if you want to take control back,
Yeah, I'll show. Hold on. Yeah.
I'll give you control.
Can you guys see them? See it?
Yeah, I can.
Yep. Yeah. So over here is different than on the original document and on Barry one you have. I think the original document had the path going like this way. He's got it going here. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of that could be. I don't think he's married to any of this from the conversation that we had. So if we want to make a recommendation of, hey, we don't like where this path is, we want to move it this way. I don't get the sense from Steve that he's going to have a huge issue.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what my thinking was, because I struggled with the paths when I was doing the model. When you start, I don't think you guys can't see my cursor because I'm not presenting, but when you start at the skate shack, people are going to want to come from the skate shack to the toilets. And I wanted to have a relatively, not perfectly, but a relatively straight line coming up to the toilets. And that way the toilets are accessible from the playground. The playground's accessible from the shack and vice versa. And then you get the exercise station. So if you don't have a pathway, I mean, not that I want to have more paths, but if you don't have a pathway coming up along there, then what's going to happen is people are just going to walk up across the grass and they're going to
Right
form
over here. Yeah.
Are you talking about the skate shack or the shack food shack?
the food shack. Can I have it? Can I have control again, Marcus?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I wanted something a little bit. He and I aren't too far apart on this one.
No, that's about right. Yeah. It's a little bit, his is before, closer to the playground. Yours is outside of it.
Yeah.
But that's not I mean, I don't think where his is doesn't make sense because you got the fence. See, you can see the fence line on yours. So you couldn't put unless you put a path right along the fence, which I don't think makes sense. So I think where you have it makes sense. And then the other one going down, I think is fine. So I mean, he has this, right, Barry? You've shared this with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's something to bring up with him once we get to that point. We might want to encourage him to adjust his pathing a little bit on this.
Right. Yep. I think we'll bring that up when we have a conversation with him about the pathway for the pavilion.
And having the trees on his map would be helpful too, because you can see where this is going right through the middle of it too.
Exactly. Yeah. So those are the three things that we need to see if he can get.
Yeah, those trees that I've got modeled here are potentially, I've got to really check this out. Those could potentially be inaccurate or could lead us astray. So I've got to make sure that those are reasonably Well, I think they are. I think they're actually pretty close, but those were not put in scientifically in terms of specific trees and specific locations.
Right.
So are we collecting a list of things that we want to ask Steve to do or adjust on this plan? Is that what we're doing right now?
I think it's
No.
just things are coming up, and so.
No, the thinking was that we would, at least my thinking was that we would, over time, and I would do this when I integrated his plan with this, I would see things like this and form that list. But we've got, I think the big thing right now is the pavilion that we're trying to get settled.
Right. I mean,
And-
I guess, Bill, if there's other things that you want us to address.
No, I'm just trying to figure out
I'm
what
fine
are
with
we
it.
trying to accomplish? What are we
Yeah, I
trying
think,
to
well,
do?
initially it was just to agree on where the pavilion's going to go. And because of the issue with the 50-foot water frontage in the path and all that stuff, we can't make a decision today until we talk to him. So that's why we're going to go back and talk to him about that. And so while we're talking to him about that, we might as well bring up this path change here, and then also you mentioned the trees, right, being put on the plan. So those are the three things that I'm aware of that we want to bring up to him. But I'm open to, again, while we got him, I'm open to talk about whatever. So if there's anything else that you see now or later, if you want to send Barry and I an email, I think we're fine bringing it up.
Yeah, I think part of our purpose there, Bill, is what we're trying to accomplish is just collectively eyeballing his latest plan and comparing it to this. And I think we've made a good pass at that. And I will continue that effort, as I said, as I incorporate it in the model.
Okay. What about the smaller path over by the pond?
You're talking about this guy that we were talking about earlier?
Correct.
That's not on his plan.
No, I know that. Are we asking that it be put back on his plan, or are we accepting that it's going to be taken off?
I wasn't planning
Not
on it.
appear.
I don't
My
know how strongly you guys feel about it, but
my recommendation is let me walk over there, take some measurements and some pictures, and I think just a few photographs for our next meeting will help us kind of collectively as a committee visualize what we want to do there. But I think we agree that if we do have some kind of a path there, it would be almost a informal dirt path as opposed to something more like the crushed stone. But
I think
we can ask him why it's not included. There may be a reason.
Yeah, if we can ask why it's not included, I think part of the conversation was if there isn't a path put in, a path is going to be created by people walking from the path. I think the theory was a path will be made either by intent or by accident, depending on how much people are walking over to the nature path from the main path, right? So either
I'm gonna disagree with you on that. When I see people coming down here, they're gonna walk over here, and they're gonna walk across the parking lot, and this is where we normally enter the woods. People over here, yes, sometimes they're going to wander, but I don't perceive this point here coming down through here and along the edge as a place where people are going to beat a path out of that. I think some people are going to walk around this area, they're going to picnic in this area, they're going to wander in it.
Right.
The way they do today, but we don't.
I would counter that when we go to the park, if we decide to go to the pond, we walk over, or if we wanted as a family to sit and eat lunch at the pavilion and then wanted to go for a nature walk, my family tends to walk down by the pond and then walks over. And if there's a path and there's field, games going, we would be walking on the path from the park, and then we'd go over and we'd walk down to the nature trail. So I'm just telling you, the conversation that led to that path light, as I'll call it for now, before was that if we do not create one, people will create one. So, how people use things are going to be different after we create the walking path. How people get down to the nature path, I think there's not really a main pathway now, yeah, people go through that parking lot, but if I think, again, this was discussed ad nauseum before. We could do whatever everyone wants to do now. I'm just saying that a large driver of creating the smaller path was that a path was going to be created either by people wearing down the grass or not. So,
All right, let me do this. I will create the path in the model. It's toggleable, so we can turn it on, turn it on, turn it off. I'll create a path that shows how it looks. I will try to get some photographs too, just of this area to kind of refresh our memories. We'll follow up with Steve to see what his reaction is to having this path curve, come in here and curve down around like that. That would be kind of nice if this actually came along closer to the pond there for a while. And, maybe loop back by the trees and so forth. So,
could you guys ask Steve as well about why that path is on the
Yeah, we can ask him why it's not on his. Again, there might be a reason. I don't know, or it could just be left out. So,
Yeah.
We'll ask him.
He's got a lot of things left out. He doesn't have the toilets on his. A couple of other things I noticed he was missing. So there's some things that he doesn't have yet.
All right, so no voting on that today. We'll go to Steve and see what we can come up with for the pavilion, and then we'll revisit that next time. Adele, did you want to? I know there was something you wanted to address at the end.
Yes.
Because that's everything we had really to go over. So,
as part of the Commonwealth government site, there is a list for handicapped accessible playgrounds. And some of them are not within the municipal confines of Boston. So I don't think we're talking about the MWRA sites, that they're including parks all over Massachusetts. And I was wondering whether we should be making an effort to try and get Friendship Park listed there.
I can't think of a reason why not. Is anybody opposed to it?
Not at all. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. Sure.
Adele, where do you want to have that listed? I apologize. I was distracted for a minute.
It's an ma.gov site for handicapped accessible playgrounds. I don't have the specific name. I would have to go Google and find it again. And I don't quite remember the path I took to get there. But I was visiting the site and looking at the different playgrounds when we were going through the planning part of the committee work.
And do you want to do Friendship Park, or do you also want to do separately Roberts Field? Is it the kind of site that would be appropriate for both?
I have to check. I don't recall whether it is general parks or just playgrounds
Are you talking
in that
about?
list.
Are you talking about a Massachusetts part run by Massachusetts government?
Yes. Well,
There's
it's
also
it's a
accessible.
list maintained by the government, but the parks are not necessarily maintained by the Commonwealth.
Okay, there's also accessibleplayground.net/United-States/Massachusetts. Not Massachusetts, but Massachusetts. Apparently, I forgot the S. So that was like the first one that came up when I typed in accessible playground Massachusetts into Google.
Okay.
So, and I also ended up on that when I was looking for stuff back when we were doing design. Yeah.
And I could be misremembering. It could be that site, and I'm just forgetting that that some sort of Massachusetts resource sent me to this non-government one.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the accessible routes of play areas on the MassGov website right now, and I'm trying to see if it links it to anything else, but I'll let you know if I find that. But I will say the other one was the very first one that comes up when you type in accessible playgrounds.
And the other issue being that if it's just the playground, is that something that we instigate or something we ask people in terms of Friends of Roberts Field? Or I'm not sure who has the purview here.
I think you do. I think he who smelt it.
Someone else
She who smelt it.
volunteering to do the work, yes. As
Yeah,
soon
I
as
think
the
I would add that if there's a contact, you may want to put Steve, not Yonley, the other Steve,
Callahan.
or just the DPW as a contact. You know, just the general. If it's a contact field, probably
Okay.
just the DPW contact number.
All
Maybe
right.
a specific person.
Yeah, there's also a disabilityinfo.org website that also has a list of Massachusetts accessible ones. So those are the two that come up, obviously.
Okay.
The town may have a landing page for, I know that at one point I saw that they were putting in resources, like a landing page for each of the different things around town. So they may have one for Friendship Park. So if they do, that might be a good, if there's a place for a, you know, for a URL, that might be a good spot for it. A town website, somewhere on the town website. If not, I mean, you could always use robertsfield.org or the Friends thing.
Okay.
That's a good idea, though, Dell.
Well, I know there's always this push-pull by the community as to whether they want lots of people from other communities using our resources or not. But I think that, you know, the more people that know about the park, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say we already have lots of people from lots of communities using this park, and I don't think that the population that would be going to those websites would be substantial enough compared to the population we already have that
Correct.
big issue. And I think we did it with the hope that it would give more opportunity. So I see no problem. I found it in that search. I found at least 3 websites that have lists, and that they have at least 1 or 2 of them have the Westford site on it. So
Okay. Excellent.
All right.
Okay.
So I think the last thing we had on the agenda was the meeting minutes.
Oh.
So Barry, you sent those out, right? From the last meeting in January.
You should have gotten those meeting minutes. I also sent out the meeting that we had with Steve Yonley and Callahan.
Yep.
Did everybody get those? You should have all gotten, you know, I haven't looked at them for so long, I don't remember now, but.
Yeah, no, I think it did go out to everybody.
I've been working crazy hours recently, and I haven't had a chance to look at anything. I see emails came in from you, but I've been trying to both do childcare and go into work in the middle of the night to do testing, so I haven't really been.
Has anyone else looked at the meeting minutes?
I looked at the meeting minutes, but not at the working meeting minutes.
I did. I gave Barry some feedback on one change about the positioning of the shade structure.
And that's what got us into the conversations that we've been having, right?
Right, but I thought that you were asking for approval of the meeting minutes.
Right. Yes.
Right.
So were the meeting minutes modified because they reflected that there was a vote taken and that was the Pavilion 1 was the determined location in the minutes.
Oh, okay. Let me go back. I don't think I made that change. I don't think I remember your comment.
Okay.
But I don't.
That was my only comment.
Yeah, I didn't actually make a change to the minute, so I'll make that change to the minutes.
So then we'll just vote on it next time. So if you make the change, Barry, send it back out, and then we can.
Well, we can vote on it if you guys are ready to. We can vote on it. I mean, I'm fine with that. That change. I mean, obviously that change was made because we talked about it today. So.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm fine with voting on it next time since I didn't get a chance to look at them today, or whatever everyone else wants to do.
Okay, then let's just vote on the beginning of next meeting. How's that?
That's fine.
Okay. And we can approve the minutes from this meeting and the last one.
The last one, yep. Okay. We'll make this a regular habit.
Well, and actually, Robert's rules, do you want to do the minutes right after you convene and get it out of the way?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I had that, and then was it Ted asked me if he could go first, so that's why I put it on the end, because I appreciated that he was joining, so I didn't want to have him go through things that he didn't have to participate in. So
he sounds very willing to work with us, which sounded great.
Yeah, he's been great. He's actually been really willing to work with us. So I'm excited about the survey. I think it's going to be really good. I'm excited to see what the responses are that we get.
What is his title? Did he say he's head of IT for Chelmsford?
I don't know if he's head. Is he head of it or? Yeah, okay. Head of IT, yeah.
So I will try to put some minutes again for this meeting.
Thank you, Barry.
I don't know how if you look at my scratches here, I don't know how comprehensible they'll be, but if we can just agree that nobody reads them, there shouldn't be a problem.
So
they do get submitted to the town. So
one more quick thing that just popped in my head was the hand sanitizer whatever that thing. Did you check with the Board of Health and the fire chief on that? The more I thought about that, I feel like you really ought to check those boxes before you go too much further with that.
the more I thought about that, I'm glad you brought that up. I think now with the COVID situation, there's a shift in this whole thing. This is just my personal perspective. The hand sanitizers for COVID probably aren't going to be as important in another year. The hand sanitizers as part of the toilet facilities presumably would be provided by, provided by and serviced by the people that handle the toilet. So it sort of falls into that realm.
Yeah, I was talking about the standalone. We were talking about a donation of a standalone dispenser, right?
Yeah.
Kind of close to the playground.
Yeah, that was going to be Justin, I think.
And that was going to be, I thought, by the toilets. Did I misunderstand that? Did it make?
I don't know. I thought that was going to be like inside the playground proper.
Right. Yeah, like either inside the park or on the way into the park, right? Near the entrance.
Like kind of like where the sunscreen thing is now. And then my suggestion was that you reach out to the Board of Health, one for sure, because that's definitely under their purview, and the fire chief too, because that's an accelerant. The hand sanitizer is an accelerant, so I got to think there may be an issue there with him, but it's worth checking off. And
all right,
he's a
I will
talk to.
do that. I apologize for not following through on that one. And we said that be inside the playground.
I see your mouth moving, but you're muted.
Yes, I just realized that. And as we explore that, we should also be thinking about hand sanitizer by the shade pavilions.
Yeah,
people are going to be eating, people are going to want to use sanitizer. And is that a personal responsibility? Everyone provides their own kind of thing? Mm-hmm. Or is that something that we want to have there?
So when we talked to Steve about this, he was basically like, hey, he seemed okay with us putting something there and supplying it, but he was basically saying that the DPW wouldn't be supplying any hand sanitizer. They wouldn't be refilling it. They couldn't be responsible for it and all that. Like if we wanted to do it on our own and have somebody, volunteer or sponsor it by donating the hand sanitizer, that's fine. But they didn't want to be liable for having to refill it.
Okay.
That's understandable. I would just suggest that you talk to the Board of Health and the fire chief about it as well. Yep,
that's a good idea.
One of the things he did say is they don't last very long. They get ripped down.
Right. He said that the one in the with the porta potties got stolen along with the toilet paper. Multiple times, apparently. Multiple times. So
that in itself is discouraging.
Yeah.
I will do this.
Which I can, okay.
They say-
Anything else? That's everything that I had on the agenda. So I'll just open it up and see if there's anything else anybody wanted to bring up before we adjourn.
I have nothing.
I can't think of anything.
You guys want to look at a picture for the little poster that we're going to do, or do you want me to just come up with a couple and send them out and you guys can vote, or how do you want to handle that one?
I'll rough out a layout. I'll rough out a design and then send something out with what we have in place.
So if you have a picture, Barry, send it to Bill, and
Yeah.
you guys just work on it.
shots, Bill, and you can just come back to me and say, yeah, give me this or that or whatever you want. Okay.
Yeah. It just needs
Yeah,
to say, take our survey. That's it, basically.
And once you guys get it done, just send it to me and then I'll print them out.
If we
And
can,
then I'll get some over to Adele to have them laminated.
Right.
if we can sweeten the pot is not the right word, but if we can give incentive as to why we want people and why it's important, I think we should try to make a blurb that specifies what it will give people in order to help convince them to take it, right? By saying something like, this will help us improve the park in some fashion, or this will help us bring
Funding improve the
something.
park.
What?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of with the picture. In other words, we have all kinds of, I mean, obviously, yes, be said in just a few words, but there's all kinds of potential wonderful things that we can do with the park, but we need funding.
Right.
And this is going to help us.
So the blurb should sell it as to why they should care, right? Why they should bother with their time to do the survey, and it's because it will directly feed back into helping us get funding to do good things. So.
I.e. take our survey.
What did you say, Bill?
I said, i.e. take our survey.
Well, I know, Adele, you're going to write up something, right? So I'm sure you'll come up with something creative. All the faith in the world.
Shall we choose a date for the next meeting?
Sure. Let's see. What do we look at the calendar here? All right. Do we want to meet?
Do you know when Steve is going to present to his plan to the Conservation Commission for his permits?
I do not know. That's something we should ask him.
He did provide that date at some point.
I think that's our next milestone.
What's that, Bill?
I think that's our next milestone.
So you want to meet before that or after?
I mean, if we want any kind of changes to what he has, we'd have to meet before that. If we want to make any kind of adjustments, because once he puts his plan together and gives it to him, it's done.
Okay. So what do you think what do you want to meet? I mean, I guess, Barry, we should talk to him and say, hey, how soon would he need to have changes from us before then, right? I mean.
Yeah, but when he meets with the Conservation Commission, what is he meeting for? He's only meeting for specific things, right? I mean, he doesn't care like where the toilet's going to be placed, or I don't know. Is he going to be dealing? He's probably going to be dealing with irrigation, right? Sure.
The plan, the layout, and all that stuff. If we have any kind of changes to the layout and the plan that he gave you,
right,
that whatever that is going to be final at some point in his mind, and that's when he goes to the Conservation Commission.
Which means the pathways and where the pavilion is and
right,
et cetera.
Okay. So why don't we do this, Barry? When we reach out to him,
we need to get him to put the toilets into that plan, right? Because right now his plan does not show the toilets.
But the permit's not going to really. That's like, I mean, that's away from the pond, so
right.
It's really
okay,
the pond side.
That was my question. Okay, now I understand.
But it would be good to have it all finished and buttoned up anyway, so it doesn't have to get revised, because he's not going to revise it later.
So why don't we talk to him, Barry, find out when that's going to be, how much notice he needs from us on any changes, and then we can then schedule the next meeting appropriately. I mean, it may be something like we have to schedule it next week if it's coming up that soon. I just don't know.
Okay.
So that way we can, get back together and get the stuff put to bed before he has that meeting.
Do you want
to then we'll schedule based on what you learn for his date.
Yeah.
You want to send him an email? We could just send him an email, I think, Marcus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he was actually pretty good about getting on the phone with us before. for a little bit during the day. So, I mean, we can always try to set something up. We can send him an email asking him when the date is, but it wouldn't hurt to just get on the phone with him again for 30 minutes. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like that tiny path, the smaller path, that's gonna be a yes, no.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's definitely gonna be in the permitting part
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we can. I'll reach out to him, and Barry and I can reach out to him tomorrow, and then Barry, we might be able to get something set up with him like Monday, Tuesday next week, even. You know what I mean? I don't know what his schedule permits, but I mean, he should be pretty flexible during the day. And then from there, we'll just get back to the committee and say, okay, here's what we learned, and then we'll schedule the next meeting date and move from there.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
I think what I will do is just send out as an email to all you guys the stuff that we need to review with Steve, just to make sure I don't forget something.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm feeling very fogged tonight because of my COVID shot today. I don't know. I feel great, but I just feel kind of.
Congratulations on getting your shot. That's excellent news.
Thanks.
Is it 1 or 2?
I got the Pfizer, which is 2, but boy, they do a great job. I went in there and right during the process, they just handed me a little plastic card and said, "This is your appointment for the next time. Come on April 1st."
That's great. Where did you get your shot?
Got it over at Lowell General at the old Wang building up there on Pawtucket Boulevard.
Oh yeah.
Boy, if any of you are looking for a place to get this, that's the place to go. They're well organized. Their websites work.
Yeah, you don't need to use the state
Yeah,
website. You go directly to Lowell General to their vaccine clinic website.
Yeah, it's a completely separate website. Stay away from the states if you can avoid it. In my opinion.
Although they're changing the state thing up, and I think as of tomorrow, all of us young folk who aren't going to be eligible for a while can put in our information. They're hooking up with Google to do something where we all put in our information, and then they will contact us with a link, and then you can use it within 24 hours. It's supposed to get rid of the whole disaster. I look forward to seeing how this actually works, but there's information about that in the news this week. So.
Well, in the meantime, if you're eligible and you're trying to get in, I would look into the law.
Yeah. We happened upon it on the Chelmsford news site. Someone said, "Gee, the nurse who gave me my shot this morning said they're going to be dropping some appointments later today." So I was running around at some doctor's appointments. So my daughter got online for me. She happened to get on right after the appointments had been dropped. And I had an appointment for the next day.
Oh, nice. You already got yours too?
Yes, first one.
That's excellent. Yeah, my parents got their second shots last week, and my in-laws got their first shot this week. So I feel like there's finally a light.
Mm-hmm.
And for my wife and I, we got the same time, same place, same time, first and second shots.
That's a miracle, because my in-laws, one had to go there in Townsend, one had to go to Worcester, and one had to go to Lawrence. And not exactly convenient. But.
It's time to hit the nightclubs. You guys can have a double date.
Oh yeah.
Who knows? Maybe soon enough we'll all be able to meet again in person.
Nah.
I think we need a good political rally that we can all go to. Ditch our masks and just go into the fields and have a great time.
Yep. All right. Well, unless there's anything else, I guess I'll motion to adjourn. Right?
I will second.
Aye.
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 All right.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Everyone.
Aye.
Take care.